Each of these beings carries with them deep symbolism and a rich history that offers multiple layers of interpretation. From the majestic guardians of the sacred to the creatures that represent the primordial forces of the universe, our journey promises to reveal the most intriguing and least understood aspects of the biblical text. Ready to unravel these mysteries? Let's embark on this exploration of the darkest and most revealing corners of the sacred word. Our first stop takes us to the majestic and enigmatic cherubim. These celestial beings are known as the guardians of the sacred in biblical traditions. They appear at various points in the scriptures, but it is in the book of Genesis that they make their impressive debut, placed by God in the east of the Garden of Eden, wielding a flaming sword that rotated in all directions to guard the path to the tree of life. The cherubim are described as having multiple faces and wings, each face representing a different aspect of creation: man, lion, bull, and eagle. They resonate with symbolism, each exemplifying the noblest characteristics of their respective form: intelligence, strength, perseverance, and sovereignty. Their presence is both protective and forbidding, serving as a constant reminder of God's holiness and majesty. Cherubim are not just guard creatures. They symbolize divine omnipresence and omnipotence, manifestations of the power that sustains the universe. Thus, they occupy a special place in the heavenly hierarchy, eternally shrouded in mystery and reverence. We now move on to meet the seraphim, beings of pure light and fire, whose description is offered to us with stunning vivacity in the book of the prophet Isaiah. The seraphim are portrayed as being close to the throne of God, engaged in songs of praise and worship, proclaiming the holiness and glory of the Lord. With 6 wings each, they are one of the highest and most fascinating beings in the celestial hierarchy. 2 of their wings cover their faces as a sign of humility and reverence. 2 cover their feet, symbolizing respect and awareness of their own creation, and with the other 2, they fly, ready to serve and execute divine orders. Isaiah's vision, where the seraphim cry out to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of his glory," resonates through the ages, a powerful testimony to his holiness and power. The fire associated with the seraphim symbolizes purification and renewal. They not only serve in the presence of God, but also perform missions of purification, as seen when one of them touches Isaiah's lips with a live coal, preparing him to prophesy. These fiery beings encapsulate the transformative fire of the Spirit, inciting both awe and admiration in all who become aware of their sublime existence. Let us now leave the celestial kingdoms and descend to the depths of the earth to discover the behemoth, a colossal creature whose mention we find in the pages of the book of Job. This imposing being is presented in the dialogue between God and Job, a supreme example of the wonders and mysteries of creation divine. The behemoth is described as the supreme land beast, whose strength is unparalleled. Its tail moves like a cedar, its thighs are of interwoven fibers, its bones are like bronze tubes, and its limbs are comparable to iron bars. He is the firstborn of God's great works, residing peacefully under the dense shadows, on the banks of rivers, where vegetation is abundant and water is always available. Some scholars suggest that the behemoth could be a hippopotamus, an elephant, or even a mythological creature that symbolizes earth and materiality, a counterpoint to the spiritual and celestial. However, the description of his greatness and dominance goes beyond the literal, touching the realm of the symbolic and the mythical. The behemoth represents the forces of nature that are wild and untamed, a reminder of God's power and majesty manifested in even the most terrifying and awe-inspiring aspects of creation. Now, from the solid ground of the behemoth, we plunge into the churning depths of the oceans to meet the Leviathan. This marine being is another enigma presented in the book of Job, a sea monster that defies comparison. Leviathan is described as having terrifying strength and impenetrable armor. Its scales are an airtight seal, so close that not even air can pass between them. With eyes that shine like dawn rays and sparks of fire that leap from its mouth, Leviathan is a creature of power and terror, capable of boiling the deep waters with its fiery breath. He is so formidable that only God can face him directly, a representation of the chaotic and destructive forces of nature that only the Creator can control. Leviathan is often interpreted as a symbol of evil and chaos, opposing the order and harmony of the universe created by God. In other traditions, he is seen as a creature who will be killed and served as food at a messianic banquet at the end of time, an event that will mark the complete subjugation of chaos and the affirmation of divine order. Its presence in the Bible, both terrifying and fascinating, resonates with the theme of the sublime, where horror and beauty intertwine. Leviathan is not just an ocean dweller, he is a guardian of the deepest, darkest mysteries that lie in the uncharted waters of existence. Shifting our gaze to the oldest and perhaps most disturbing mysteries, we encounter the Nephilim, gigantic beings who walked the earth in antediluvian times. They appear briefly in the Genesis narratives, described as powerful men of renown, offspring of unions between the sons of God and the daughters of men. The origin and nature of the Nephilim have been the subject of fascination and debate for centuries. They are often associated with beings of great stature and extraordinary strength, shrouded in an aura of mystery and terror. The term Nephilim is commonly translated as fallen, or those who cause others to fall, suggesting both a heavenly fall and a destructive impact on humanity. Some scholars suggest that the presence of the Nephilim and the subsequent increase in evil on earth were factors that led to the flood, a divine attempt to purge the world of its corruption. The short mention of these beings in the biblical text leaves many questions unanswered, fueling popular and theological imagination about who they really were and what their role was in the grand plan of creation and judgment. The mystery of the Nephilim invites us to explore the limits of biblical knowledge and to reflect on the implications of such beings in biblical theodicy and cosmology. His legacy is a distant echo of a forgotten era, a footnote in the vast symphony of human and divine narrative. Our journey through biblical riddles now takes us to the mysterious and symbolic encounter with the four living beings, described in the books of Ezekiel and Revelation. These stunning creatures are depicted serving directly under God's throne, each displaying a unique combination of traits from different beings: man, lion, bull, and eagle. Ezekiel describes them as beings with 4 faces and 4 wings, their bodies full of eyes on all sides, symbolizing vigilance and omniscience. In Revelation, they are immersed in eternal worship, repeating over and over, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, and who is to come." The presence of the 4 living beings in the fabric of prophetic visions suggests a sustaining function of the cosmos and divine order. They represent the noblest attributes of all creation: strength, intelligence, majesty, and swiftness, and their perfect harmony under the sovereignty of God. Through their forms and functions, these beings also speak to us about the interconnection between the divine and the earthly, the spiritual and the material, reflecting the profound unity that permeates all existence. Its mysterious nature and its continuous actions of praise highlight one of the most profound truths of biblical theology: that all creation is called to glorify God, each in its own way, in an eternal cycle of recognition and reverence. In this segment of our narrative, we explore one of the darkest and most feared figures in biblical tradition: the angels of death. These beings are divine agents of judgment, charged with carrying out God's will in the most fearsome of contexts. The death of the firstborn of Egypt, a central event in the story of the Exodus. The angel of death passes through Egyptian homes one fateful night, sparing only those marked with the blood of the Lamb on the doorposts, a powerful symbol that foreshadows Christian Easter. The presence of this angel not only serves as an instrument of liberation for the Israelites, it also represents divine justice and the seriousness of the covenant between God and his people. In addition to Exodus, the idea of an executing angel appears in other biblical narratives, where death is described as an ordered act, not a random one, underlining God's sovereignty over life and death. These angels, despite their dark mission, are executors of divine justice, operating under the supreme command and often incomprehensible designs of God. The figure of the angel of death challenges our understanding of morality, justice, and divine mercy, raising profound questions about the role of suffering and evil in the world. They remind us that even in the darkest moments of human history, there is an order and purpose that transcends our immediate perception. Continuing our journey through the mysteries of the Bible, we now come to the giants of Bashan, an enigmatic reference found in the book of Deuteronomy. These giants, also called Rephaim, inhabited a fertile region and were known for their imposing stature and extraordinary strength, arousing both fear and admiration among neighboring peoples. The giants of Bashan are often associated with ancient battles and the inheritance of lands promised to Israel. They represent the colossal challenges the Israelites faced upon entering the Promised Land, serving as symbols of the obstacles we must overcome to achieve the promises in our own lives. The presence of these giants in the biblical narrative also evokes themes of conquest and victory. Under the leadership of Moses and later Joshua, the Israelites are encouraged not to fear these giants, reinforcing the idea that no adversity is too great when one has divine blessing and support. Studying the giants of Bashan leads us to reflect on fear, courage, and faith. They are vivid reminders that in sacred texts, physical and spiritual challenges often go hand in hand, and that stories of ancient battles can illuminate our own daily struggles, encouraging us to face the giants with determination and confidence. Divine. We close our exploration of the Bible's most mysterious beings with the enigmatic figure of Lilith. Although her presence is more prominent in later Jewish texts, allusions to her as a nocturnal and demonic being can be found between the lines of the book of Isaiah, where a nocturnal creature is mentioned in a desolate desert. Lilith is often described as the first woman before Eve, associated with independence and rebellion. She is a symbol of what is indomitable and defiant, representing aspects of autonomy and resistance that contrast with the traditional female roles presented in much of the biblical narrative. The figure of Lilith resonates deeply in contemporary discussions about gender and power, serving as a point of reflection on personal freedom versus social expectations. Her story is seen by many as an origin myth for the eternal struggle between submission and assertiveness, where Lilith chooses to leave the Garden of Eden rather than submit to Adam. The mystery of Lilith invites us to question and explore the many layers of meaning within sacred scripture. She challenges us to think about autonomy, equity, and the consequences of challenging the status quo. As a mysterious figure, Lilith leads us to a deep reflection on the limits of interpretation and the power of untold stories. With Lilith, we conclude our journey through the Bible's most mysterious beings, having discovered a fascinating array of creatures that challenge our understanding and expand our view of the biblical world and its rich tapestry of stories, lessons, and symbolism.